But the perspective that I'm going to talk from is from a lived experience, and not only a lived experience, but somebody who has lived in Ipswich all her life, and somebody who has worked for the police service, and somebody who works at a national level. And my president is here from the National Black Police Association, and I'm the female vice president for the National Black Police Association. So I was speaking to you from all of those perspectives, and then I've got young people here in the audience from the West Suffolk College. Thank you very much for coming, that I spoke to a few weeks ago and wanted to know more about this subject. And I've also got 3 young men here who I consider to be future leaders, who I mentor in the audience as well. So I'm going to speak from my experience here in Suffolk and policing. And I worked for Suffolk Constabulary from 2008 to 2018. And when I started in 2008, it just so happened to coincide with some research that Jane is holding up at the back, some research that Suffolk Constabulary commissioned ISCRE to do on their behalf. Because at the time, I think it was, you were 15 times more likely to be stopped and searched if you were black. So for me, being a mother of a son who is very tall and very well built, that was a concern for me. And so we worked with ISCRE to come up with some recommendations. But some of the reasons that were given for the disproportionality were things like it's black men from London coming down to sell drugs, it's more black people out on the street so that they're more likely to be stopped and searched, and other such reasons. And one by one, the research discounted all of those reasons. For instance, the more likely to be out on the street, well, the times we found that people were being stopped and searched, young black men, were between 7 p.m. and 6 p.m. So I have to ask if that's still the case. Now, for my community, for me to go and work for the police service, I got things like, are you crazy? Do you know what you're letting yourself in for? But I had experience of working with Suffolk Constabulary from a community perspective, and also working for ISCRE. And I thought, you know, if things are going to change within the police service, then I need to be in that organisation to try and influence change. So like I said, I worked for them for 10 years, and within that time, I think I have influenced change, and I think policing in Suffolk has had to sit up and listen to what's being said from the community. In my national role, when we meet with the policing minister, which we will be meeting next week, talking about these very issues, and meeting with other officers from the Home Office and HMIC and the Police Complaints Commission, we bring all of these issues up because it's, until you've walked in our shoes, you don't know what it's like to constantly have to watch what you say, how you say it, how you come across, make sure you're not going to be stereotyped, that you're being aggressive or frightening or intimidating. All of those are negative things that are said about people like me. And we certainly, as police officers and police staff, have faced racism and discrimination within the service. But we're an organisation that are looking at problem solving and trying to raise those issues with the powers that can hold the police to account to try and change that. In the last few years, I've tried to sort of not have such a national focus, but to bring my focus back to Suffolk, because unfortunately for me, I'm still disappointed that my son or my grandchildren, that if they are, because they are black, they're more likely to be stopped and searched in Suffolk, particularly in Ipswich, but also in some rural areas like the west, you know, around Bury area and stuff like that. And I'm really disappointed today to read in the Criminal Justice Alliance report that in Suffolk that you're 12.2 times more likely to be stopped and searched if you're black, and 82% of the time nothing is found. And for my part, because I'm now going to be the chair of the Stop and Search Reference Group, I just want to know why we have this disproportionality. Why is it that if I was male, I would be more likely to be stopped and searched? Why is it that we're being stopped and searched for low level when there's Class A drugs? What's happening there? And it's really interesting. I've been watching the faces of the young men that I've brought here today, and I'm sorry to say, Rachel, but when you said that we're not bringing in police technology now, or yet, the looks on their faces to me was like, right, okay, something else that we might have to be dealing with in the future. So, from a local lived experience, I've taken it upon myself that I am going to advocate for my community, that I will hold the police, whether it's nationally or locally, to account for the disproportionality, and hopefully that people will start to listen and take heed instead of not getting defensive but get irked by being challenged. Because as far as I'm concerned, the police service is there to protect and serve. And as a member of the community, I want that to happen to me. I don't want my grandchildren, and I don't want my children to be subjected to a two-tier service where there's one sort of policing for one part of the community and a second type of policing for another community. To be able to grow up and be able to walk the streets and not feel that they may come into contact and it could or could not be a positive or negative experience. That's not taking away the good work that Suffolk Police do, because like I said, I used to work for the police service. I want the disproportionality to be dealt with, I want the racism to be dealt with, and I want the discrimination to be dealt with. And so I will keep on championing, and no matter how tired people get of hearing my voice, I will carry on doing it, because 3 people I know who are called troublemakers: Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X. So I'm really glad that I'm a troublemaker, and that's all I have to say.